Thanks once again to all of you that submitted your questions for this Q&A. Remember, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from here on going forward, Q&As coming from me, the Schleg Daddy, on OTRS Central. So make sure you take to Twitter, tweet your questions to @OTRSCentral, give the show a follow as well, and use the hashtag OTRSCentral when you ask your questions, so that way I can actually see that it's a Q&A question. Not every question is going to possibly be answered, but some of the best ones will get answered every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For some of you that want to know maybe my views on things not pertaining to professional wrestling, go check out my personal YouTube channel. That's Schleg Daddy TV. That information is in the description box down below. In the month of June, I'm doing what's called a Stupid America series, where I'm addressing a whole different bunch of controversial and hot button topics when it comes to the United States. And if you're a fan of the NFL, I do NFL related videos all year long. So again, go to youtube.com/SchlegDaddyTV. The link is in the description box down below. But the topic at hand is this Q&A. So let's get started right now. At Punk21 wants to know, Chris Jericho had an interview with Bully Ray and in the end talked about his bully gimmick in the WWE. Would it work? I think so. I mean, they were kind of doing that almost like homoerotic gay bully shit with Ryback. They did it before a little bit with Heidenreich. Would Bully be able to pull it off a little bit better? Perhaps, especially if he was going up there to the baby faces and saying, "Don't be a bully, be a star." Perhaps it would work. Perhaps. At GK196, out of all three commentators on Raw, who annoys you the most? I think easily it's Jerry the King Lawler, because I know how good Jerry the King Lawler can be. And I know how good he used to be, and how witty he used to be, and how entertaining he used to be. And the key word for all of that shit is used to be, because now he just seems to kind of coast through, provide very mediocre analysis to say the least, and at the end of the day bring everything back to how awesome John Cena is. That annoys the ever-loving shit out of me, more than anything that a JBL or even a Michael Cole does. At Dexter C73, when will the WWE wake up and give their black wrestlers a chance to succeed? I don't know. And I don't envision that coming anytime in the near or even semi-distant future, frankly. At New Flavor 408, do you think Kofi Kingston is the new Shelton Benjamin, a fan favorite, but WWE only uses him for big spots? Probably. Probably. And I don't even know if Kofi's ever really truly gotten pushed to the same level that even a Shelton Benjamin did. You might say, well, back in 2009, 2010, but that was there and you blink and you missed it. It was over at the snap of a finger. But he kind of fills that Shelton Benjamin, give you 2 to 3 oh shit moments in a match role. That's kind of what he is now. At Rick Styles 1985, do you think the WWE has always followed a certain pattern when booking top main baby faces from Bruno to Cena? Yes, by and large. I think you could definitely say that. I think the booking of guys like Bruno and Hogan and Warrior was better than some guys like Cena, but there are certain patterns that have kind of held true throughout the WWF/WWF/WWE's history of booking top main event baby faces. At awesome_leopard, if WWE decided, to do a modern day 4 horsemen, which 4 wrestlers would you pick? Oh, this is an easy question. Easy question. 4 horsemen? Breakfast Club. I just have to believe in my heart of hearts that the WWE is missing the boat and missing an opportunity to make so much money by not doing a full-on Breakfast Club heel faction, fucking calling them the Breakfast Club. Triple H in maybe the J.J. Dillon type of role. John Cena in the Flair role. You've got Randy Orton and Batista maybe in the Ole and Arn role. In Sheamus in the Tully Blanchard role. Just think about that for a second. If those 5 top guys were all on the heel side of the fence, you have all types of possibilities in terms of the different feuds you could do. Imagine if Cena was the world champion and Orton and Batista were the tag champions and Sheamus was the US or IC champion. Imagine how much that would elevate the profile of all of those championship titles, because you know that these guys would be involved in storylines pertaining to those titles. And imagine how many new stars you could elevate by feuding them against those 5 guys. And imagine how many different feuds you could do. I mean, you could sit there and do all types of interconnected crap, very similar to what the Crockett promotion, Mid-Atlantic, did with Dusty Rhodes feuding with the 4 Horsemen. You could bring in different people. Dusty could feud with different people. You could do all types of different possibilities. And there's one thing you could say beyond question you would have full confidence in, is that if they had a heel faction, a truly designed heel faction of Triple H, Cena, Orton, Batista, and Sheamus, those 5 guys, those guys would be heels. And those guys would be monsters. And you would have no concern about the heels getting the real right heel heat, period. So those would be the wrestlers that I would pick. At Dynasty 215, if UNLV never advertised Batista and he was a surprise entrant in the Rumble, would it have worked? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, it would be Christmas every day, as Tony used to sing all the time. Maybe. Probably not, though, especially if people were chanting for Daniel Bryan at number 30 and now came Batista instead. Probably wouldn't have went over so well. It probably would have ended up exactly pretty much the same as it ended up. At We Are Pro Wrestling, do you think Duncan and Popovich are the Brady and Belichick of the NBA? Consistent winning, always in the playoffs? Yes. 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 The way they conduct themselves, the way they carry themselves. You can especially see the similarities in Popovich and Belichick. There's no question about it. That is a tremendous comparison, and that is the appropriate comparison. Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich are the NBA's equivalent of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. No doubt in my mind. At Air 458, will WWE be dumb enough to make the guy in the bunny suit feud with Adam Rose? Air 458, don't be a lemon, be a rosebud. Come on, man. Could they do that at some point in time? Would it be maybe even an interesting way to introduce a new heel character? Perhaps. Well, they probably not. At Kenny Kim asks, why does the internet complain when something's predictable? When something's surprising, they say it makes no sense. You're maybe getting at the fact that you think no matter what, the internet's always going to bitch about something, which I don't think is entirely true. That's partially true, definitely sometimes true, but I think that's one of those stereotypes and prejudices that is somewhat based on fact, but is a bit misleading and, again, not entirely true. You're referring to, I'm assuming, Seth Rollins' turn joining Evolution, leaving the Shield. I guess for me, the reason it doesn't make sense is, why would the guy that's a part of the faction that has won the last 2 pay-per-view matches leave this faction to join this faction that is losing, that doesn't have a single title, including the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? All of the guys that he's joining with lost to Daniel Bryan. You could sit there and say he's power and it's about money and all of that, but it would seem like you were in a perfectly good position with the Shield. I mean, you know, sometimes predictable isn't a bad thing if it's done right. If you could see it coming, but it was still executed correctly, that doesn't make it a bad thing. Sometimes you're just ahead of the curve, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. But sometimes, frankly, things can be surprising, and they do make no sense. You know, TNA's done this shit for years, all types of surprise swerves and heel turns. That doesn't make them good. And very similarly, that's what it felt like to a degree what the WWE did with having Seth Rollins turn on the Shield and join Evolution. It felt very Russo TNA-esque, a swerve for the sake of a swerve that didn't seem to be really well thought out ahead of time. It'll be up to the execution, which will surely be very poor. You know, so I get what you're saying. I just don't think it's an entirely fair criticism of internet fans. I really don't. At A_Iniosa19. What do you think of the stipulation set for Money in the Bank? Doesn't it defeat the purpose to possibly not have a Money in the Bank match? To a degree, yes. I would agree with you. You know, why would you call the pay-per-view Money in the Bank if you don't have a Money in the Bank match? Although I would dispute this notion that they couldn't have both a regular Money in the Bank match and the match for the World Heavyweight Championship, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Why can't they have both? For the past few years, since you have both brands, you had 2 Money in the Bank matches. So why can't you still have 2 Money in the Bank matches? That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Have one where the person actually wins the Money in the Bank contract and make that maybe in the middle of the show. And then the main event of the show would be the 7, 8 guys, however many, that are going to wrestle in that other Money in the Bank ladder match to see who wins the vacant WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I think you win all the way across the board if you do that. Will the WWE do that? Probably not. Does it make it kind of pointless if they don't actually have a technical Money in the Bank ladder match? Yeah, it does kind of. At Twins of Sanity, what do you think is the most controversial thing that WWE has ever done? Depends on how you define controversial. I mean, to me, I still to this day question their decision to go public as a company in October of 1999. That would be one. From a wrestling product standpoint, I think the decision to continue Over the Edge 1999 after Owen Hart's unfortunate passing, that's pretty controversial, I would think, still to this day. The decision to basically somewhat fully discard the pay-per-view business to create the WWE Network, I think, is something that is very controversial, especially from a business standpoint. I don't know if there's any one thing that I would classify as controversial. Maybe going back to being a PG company for a certain purpose and a certain reason, and it really, frankly, didn't pay off when it came to the new television deal. There are certain things that I look at and say these are very controversial. As far as what's the most controversial, some people might say bringing in Mike Tyson fresh off of 5 years in prison for a rape conviction. You know, they did a lot of controversial stuff over the years, no question. At Murderlick, say, Schleg Daddy, how many Shield fangirls do you think flipped out after Rollins' turn? I think they flipped out probably more when Reigns was getting beat down at Payback, and I guess then again here the beat down on Raw. Probably a lot of Shield fangirls, especially a lot of Roman Reigns fangirls like Summer. At MC_Big Bird, if you were able to eat and drink one thing without any health consequences at all, which food and drink would it be? Food, easy. Bacon. All day. Bacon. I think that's a manly answer. As far as drink, probably Mountain Dew. Yeah, Mountain Dew. I miss not being able to drink Mountain Dew. If there's one thing I could drink without any health consequences, it would be Mountain Dew, period. At THFC Thomas 5, what does the Brooklyn Brawler actually do for WWE? Jobber gimmicks, behind the scenes stuff, Pat Patterson. It's the best way I can answer that question, brother. Pat Patterson. Oh, you didn't ask who Brooklyn Brawler actually does in WWE. I apologize. But anyways, thanks again for all of you submitting your questions for this Q&A. Remember, if you want to hear some of my thoughts on some of the hot button controversial topics here in America, check out my Stupid America video series. That link to that playlist is in the description box down below, as is the Schleg Daddy TV channel, where I talk about those type of issues as well as NFL-related topics all year round. Make sure you go to Twitter, tweet your questions to @OTRSCentral using the hashtag in your question, OTRSCentral, so that way I know it's a Q&A question. And we'll see you again on Friday for another Q&A. Remember, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It might end up eventually becoming an everyday thing. I haven't decided yet. But thanks for your questions, and thanks for tuning in. We'll do this again on Friday.